This is episode 7 of Pitchin' It with Ben. In this episode, I am joined by LPGA rookie Esther Lee. We talk about her start in golf, her college career, which included tying a NCAA 18-hole scoring record with a round of 61. We also discuss her time on the Symetra Tour and the challenges that come with professional golf. And honestly, Esther's recollection of shots and rounds made this conversation so much fun. She also talked about earning her LPGA card and her experiences so far in the few tournaments she played pre-COVID. Great stories, great insights, lots of fun. All this and more on episode 7. And please like, rate, comment, subscribe, and share. Thanks for listening. All right. So, Esther, first of all, nice to meet you. Sort of. Kind of. Virtually. I think that's how I've met so many people like the last few months.
No, but we did meet at, was it French Lick?
Sort of, yes. I don't know. Did we actually talk though? I'm not.
I think we did. Or I said hi because you were like in the grass, like in the tall grass, and I was like, hi.
Oh, shoot. Now I
Like,
feel bad.
No.
I'm not sure that I remember that. I remember these things. I pride myself on remembering these things.
It was a long time ago. Or it felt like a long time ago.
Well, see, I've been to 2 Symetra events, so both of them are pretty sharp in my mind. Because I was essentially by myself out there, as far as like, you know, Zach would take some photos, and there might have been like a couple of different people, but as far as like normal, like I'm at an LPGA event, there's usually
there's like no media compared to what there is at LPGA events.
Right. And then especially taking photos. But see, I feel so, I guess, self-conscious because I felt that way a lot when I first went on LPGA, like first covering LPGA events. But then I get kind of used to it. Also, players, they recognize me or I'm friends with them. So then there's not a lot of like awkwardness or anything.
Yeah.
But always a fear of being in the way. So like being on Symetra, when I know that there's not usually that many people, like, not that I wasn't in the way, like standing directly in front of people, but even,
no,
you know what I mean? I don't know. That's just a good question.
Because it's like, because you're like the only person out there, like you're still in like the line, like the side, side. Yeah.
Yeah. Wherever I'm at. It's like, that. Yeah. So I mean, I guess.
But I don't know. I almost feel like I kind of prefer that because my first event at Gamebridge in Florida on the first tee, I felt like when I took my backswing off the first tee, I was going to hit someone in the face with my club because that's how close they were standing. And I was like, oh, this feels uncomfortable. So
you mean like so you near the back of the tee box, like the ropes were very close to
the front, they're really close to the tees, and it almost felt like when I was doing my pre-shot routine, I stand behind the ball and take a swing, but I kept looking back because I thought I was going to hit someone because it felt like they were standing really close. So.
Oh my God. Okay. I will get to that. I want to talk to you about that actually, but semi-chronologically. Okay. So, well, first of all, how are you doing? Everything, like, what's been up with you?
My life is so boring right now. I mean, I think they shut the golf courses down March 19th here. So it's almost been 2 months, and they just started opening up golf courses, but not where I live. I mean, I think the closest one is probably like 45 minutes away.
Dang.
And it's not like the practice facilities are open. It's just like the driving range and the course. So even if I wanted to go chip and putt and hit balls, it's still not an optimal setting to practice. And then there's like a couple just ranges open, maybe within 20 minutes. But then you can only hit off of mats for so long before I mean, for me, when I hit off mats, like my elbow hurts, my wrist hurts. It's not like a comfortable feeling. And plus, you can never tell because no matter if you're hitting it bad or well, like it just seems like you're hitting it well. So
Right. So like I remember the first time I went to a Top Golf, and like I knew I was hitting it chunky. Like I knew
yeah,
I was behind the ball a little bit, but I was still hitting it like 80% or 90% of like
yeah, like it still feels fine because the club just like bounces right off the rubber. So,
right. Yeah.
but I mean, other than that, whatever, I've been reading a lot. I've been watching a lot of TV. My sleep schedule is so out of whack. I don't think, like, I can't remember the last night that I went to bed before like 2 a.m. Lots of naps. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty poor. Like, there's nothing to really, you can't really go outside. So, I mean, you can, but it's just, there's nothing to do outside. So,
So, is it any sort of routine? Have you tried to like make even like something that you make sure you do once a week or
well, I've been taking walks with my dad. And then, I mean, that's like the only, and then I have like a grocery, my mom wants to go to the grocery store every Tuesday now. So that's when we go.
I got you. Oh yeah, yesterday. You told me you were running some errands,
Yeah,
so shopping
errands.
day.
Yeah.
It is such a strange time that we're in right
I
now.
mean, it is like, but when you think about it, it's like, if you think about people in our generation from like early 20s to late 20s, maybe into early 30s, I read this on Twitter. Like, we survived 9/11. We were alive for that. We survived the market crash in '08. And then now we survive or are living through this pandemic. So like really like our generation has gone through a lot of like life-changing pivotal moments in history, I think.
You're right. The very interesting thing is though, I mean to me, is that this is the first one that I really feel
Yeah, that affects us
because
directly.
yeah, because I think we're the same age, right? You're 25.
Yeah, 25.
Okay. So 9/11, I remember being like, I was in first grade, I think.
Yeah, I was like 6.
I remember like class being stopped, TV being rolled in,
Mhm.
because, kids,
We're like, oh, TV,
you know,
fun. Yeah.
I mean, today, now everyone has these projectors and stuff, but I still had TVs rolled into
Yeah.
class. And I was always
Yeah,
excited.
on like the stand and on the, yeah, and they roll them in.
Yes.
VHS tapes too. We still had
Yeah,
those in
we're
elementary school.
finally we're finally like low key at an age where we're like back in our day.
I know.
um, but yeah, usually that was always super exciting. That meant like good. It was something good when they rolled the
Yeah.
TV in. Yeah. But anyway, so that was that. But it's like I understood that it was a major moment. I didn't really get that it was like that life altering. I couldn't
Yeah.
quite comprehend it. The market crash, again, like I was in middle school. So I definitely was aware, like there was some things going on, but
Hmm.
it wasn't quite like now. Now it's like, yeah, my life has definitely been impacted because like travel, like this is going to affect everything too. Like 9/11 changed flying, like how we
Hmm.
fly forever. I think this one is going to change how we fly also. Like,
Oh yeah. I
are
think
we?
it's just gonna change how people interact with each other. I think at least for the next few years.
Yeah,
Like
for
I was
sure.
reading this article about how shaking hands with people, because you know how like, you like meet someone and you shake their hand, how that's not gonna really be a thing going forward, at least in
Right.
the imminent future, which I get. I mean, people have cause to be worried and cautious. So,
Yeah. What about things like I don't know if you know Jane Park at all, or if you've gotten to meet her yet, but she
oh,
she posted on her story like there's a picture from Coachella last year. Does does anyone else get anxiety looking at this photo? Like
because there's
just
so many
just
people.
people packed. Like yeah, it is pretty.
They're like, that's not social distancing.
That is not. What are you guys doing?
step away from each other.
Exactly. Okay, so let's see. When did you first start playing golf?
When I was 9.
9.
So 9 years old, 16 years ago. Wow, it's a long time. It feels like a long time.
It's it's kind of a long time, but we're still young, so don't worry too much
Yeah.
about that. But so 16 years in, but who did you decide you want to play one day? Did your parents introduce it to
Well,
you
so
or
my dad is like a huge, huge golf freak. And when I was 9 and my brother was 10, he had surgery on his hand. He had some tendon and nerve issues that they had to operate on, and he couldn't golf for maybe almost a year. And during that year, I think he was just like so desperate to go to the golf course. It didn't matter if he couldn't, like if he could just putt only, but he just wanted to be there so bad that he would make me and my brother go with him. And that's essentially how we started golf because my dad wanted to live vicariously through me and my brother.
just to be there, even if he couldn't get that sensation of the ball of himself putting the ball in the hole?
Yeah, he just like wanted to be there, which is weird because I mean now for me like when I'm there it's a job. And I mean obviously during this pandemic I can't remember wanting to be at a golf course so badly ever in my life just because I can't be, you know? But then for me like growing up like junior golf like you did it to play well and possibly get a scholarship for college, and then college it's like a team, it's the first team experience and you want to do well, and then you turn pro and that's when like all the stress and all the pressure piles on and you're just like once you step off the golf course you're like oh I'm off, it's like a relief. It's kind of, and then now it's like I'm stressed not being at the golf course. So
Yeah, I was wondering, well, yeah, first of all, when's the last time you had a break this long? Probably never, except for
when
maybe
I was like
three or
8.
something. You were 8 before you started playing golf.
Yeah, because when I visit Korea, even then I still go to the range, and I get around in with my family. Even when I'm vacationing or traveling, like there's always golf involved somehow. So this is probably the longest I've gone without playing since before I started playing.
Wow. And I wonder how many people, like, professional golfers everywhere, I wonder how many of them are, like, in the exact same
I
boat.
want to
Like,
say the majority. Because I do know players that when off season rolls around, they just like completely hang up their clubs because that's how they decompress from the season. But then even when I am not really focusing on practicing during the off season, I'm still playing like 9 holes 2 or 3 times a week, even if I'm not like pounding balls or doing putting drills or chipping, but I still go play. So
right. And I think that being golfers, like, based conversations I've had with lots of other people on tour and stuff, it's like when you do go back home, a lot of the friends that you have back home also play golf, and maybe they didn't, continue playing it at a professional level, but like that's a lot of like your link to a lot of people. So then you
yeah.
kind of like, well, and it's a good way to catch up. It is a good way to catch up, like a casual 9 or 18 holes, and just
Yeah, no, saying that this is such a funny moment. I think my last year on Symetra, we had an 8-week tournament swing. And then the US Open qualifier was also in there, so it was like 9 weeks. So I was on the road for 10 weeks because I didn't come home during that 1 week that we had off because I was prepping for the US Open in Georgia. And I mean, 8 weeks in a row, it's pretty brutal. And it's like right in the middle of summer, so it's hot too. And I remember coming home and I got home on Sunday night, and I think my boyfriend waited until like Monday afternoon. And he was like, "Do you think we can just go hit some range balls?" And I know that's his code for let's go play golf. Like he wants to play golf, but he can't just straight up ask me because he knows how tired I am from being on the road for 10 weeks. And I'm like, that's like the first thing you want to do when I get back after 2.5 months of golfing, you want to go hit range balls. He's like, I mean, you can just watch while I hit balls. And I'm like, have you ever met like a competitive golfer? Like it's hard to just watch and not play or hit balls. So I mean, I was like, okay, fine, we can go. If we're gonna go to the course, I'd rather go play. I don't want to hit balls. And he was like, okay, that works. And I was just like, it is just so funny because you get a week off of all this golf that you've been playing, and then you come back, and a lot of your friends want to go play golf.
Yeah.
And so it's not, you don't like get a break from it.
Is there, I mean, is there a way for you to turn it off, like the competitive side, and just play like kind of casually, or it's always there, even when you try to do that?
Actually, I find it hard to be super competitive when I'm not playing in a tournament. Like when I'm just playing with my friends. It's because they're always like, oh, play like you're in tournament mode, or we want to see you super focused. And I'm like, I mean, I could try, but it's not going to be any fun for like the people playing with me because I won't really be talking or interacting. And it is hard to get into that mindset when it's not a competition. So I feel like for me, it's harder to be super focused when I'm just playing casually. So.
Well, for me, like I'm not a competitive golfer, but I'm very competitive. So that is something that I've been working on so hard, like the last 2 years, is to like chill. The problem is, I don't know, you probably cannot relate at all, but like I have to be concentrating really hard to execute a golf shot well. Where I don't know if you know Angel Yin at all, but like I have gone and talked to her at the range, and she'll just hit ball after ball and carry a full conversation with me. I'm like, how do you do it? She like hitting the ball super well, and I don't know. She didn't tell me if she's hitting him like she wants to or not, but the fact that she could do that, like I can't multitask like that. As far as like, so it's something I've been working on anyway. Just to
Yeah, but you also have to like think about it's our bodies are so in sync when it comes to like our swings and stuff. Like it's just natural. It's muscle memory. So you don't have to think about it. We just do it.
right.
But I always think with the competitive thing, it's so much easier to be competitive with the people that you play if you're on the same skill level.
Mm.
Like if I'm playing with my friends from high school or college that are not golfers, like it's hard to take it seriously because it's like, no matter how bad you play, like you're never gonna lose to them.
Right.
But like if you're playing with someone that's equal in skill level, then it kind of like kicks up a notch because like you don't want to lose. And if it's like a money game, it's like you definitely don't want to lose money. So, I guess it just depends on the situation.
Yeah, that's true. I guess like for you, a really bad day shooting like 3 or 4 over, and I mean depending on the course. I guess if you're just
Yeah.
that, there's some courses that U.S. Open, lots of wind and also crazy conditions. 3 or 4 over could be good, but it's like a casual round or like your home
Yeah.
course or something. But yeah, I get that for sure. It would take like literally you could probably hit an around 18 hole round, hit let's say like 5 or 6 perfect shots like that you feel are perfect, and then I would have to hit all perfect shots to probably, because you're like if you don't hit it perfect, you're still gonna have like a 20 or 30 footer for birdie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I get what you're saying. So you start playing at 9. Um, who were some of your inspirations growing up?
I mean, growing up, I actually didn't see a lot of women's golf. I don't think until really high school. So it was always the PGA. I mean, Tiger was big, and then I, Phil Mickelson, VJ Singh, KJ Choi, those were all players that I saw really excelling when I was going through golf at a younger age. And then I think around like when I got to high school, like that 2010, 2009 is when I feel like the LPGA kind of picked up a lot. And that's when there was more coverage of them. And that's the Annika and Lorena Ochoa and all that. And then you had like your Stacey Lewis. So, I mean, inspiration wise, it's hard to say who I looked up to the most. Mostly because I think watching golf on TV wasn't something that I enjoyed to do when I was at that age. And that's how I was really exposed to it, unless there was a tournament locally, a professional event that my parents would take me to. So I feel like I looked up to their skill. So like Tiger Woods, it's like the shots that he hits and the consistency that he has. It's like, that's amazing. I want to do that. So, but I mean, I don't think I actually like ever, when I was growing up, I didn't idolize a sports figure in golf. Also at that time, I was not really, I mean, golf for me, it was always more like my dad's thing. And I didn't really get into it until maybe sophomore year of high school.
So
So,
go ahead.
oh, so it's like hard to like really get into a sports figure from golf if I wasn't like fully committed and invested into the sport.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, so that's the other thing was whenever you were, so you started at 9. Is it something you were natural at, or was it rough at the beginning? I mean, everyone usually, it's not easy to start because golf is not easy, but some
No.
people definitely pick it up quicker than others. And
I mean, I definitely did pick it up a lot quicker than a lot of other people, I think. And I think that's also one of the reasons why my dad was so invested in me playing, was because he like saw like that natural talent. But then he also knows that natural talent will only get you so far without the practice and the hard work, which is where he kind of came in. And I mean, like when you're that age, you want to play with your friends and, you know, not be at a golf course from once you get out of school until it gets dark. So I think for a long time, I was not happy with that situation. And it wasn't until I was probably 15 or 16 and when I realized like, okay, like maybe you didn't get to go to the movies or have as many sleepovers with your friends, but like also golf is going to give you opportunities that they will never have. I mean, by the time I was that age, we were already traveling the country and sometimes internationally to play events. And like all my friends are like, "Oh, that's super cool. Like you get to go to all these places." And it's true. Like we get so many opportunities and experiences that a normal person, a non-golfer, wouldn't have access to. And I started appreciating it a lot more when I finally realized that. And then also, because I had been doing it for so long, I realized that if I don't play golf, it could get kind of boring. Like a huge chunk of your day is just like gone. And it's like, what do I do to fill this time? So, which is the exact situation I'm in now. So I will let you know when I figure that out of what to do with my time.
so 2 months in, or about 2 months in.
Yeah.
Still not sure.
No. Honestly, like I was talking to my boyfriend and I was like, oh, like it's Sunday, blah, blah, blah. And I was just talking about it's Sunday for like 2 hours. And he just didn't tell me that it was not Sunday. It was Saturday. And I was like,
I'm
because
sorry.
he's in Seattle right now visiting his parents. And I was like, oh, you're gonna come back in like blah 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 days, and he was like, yep. And I was like telling him I was excited because he's been gone for like 2.5 weeks now, so I haven't seen him. And I'm like, oh, like Sunday means only so many more days. And then he's like, it's Saturday. I'm like, okay, you just let me go on for like 2 hours about it being Sunday. But you lose track of time if you do the same things every day. Like, it honestly feels like it's just one continuous long day per week.
Yeah, you're right. Whenever I actually was sick in the middle of March, and so sick that I actually did get tested for COVID, and it came back negative, thankfully. But regardless, I was in quarantine, like strict quarantine in my room for 2 weeks. That was awful. And
Yeah.
I 100% lost track of days. Like,
Yeah, it's just like, it's just, you just know it's another day in quarantine. So,
yeah. All right. Well, so you said when you were 15, 16, so around sophomore year of high school is when you started to really kind of change perspective, which is, I would say for a lot of teenagers, like you're maturing. So like you're figuring more stuff out to think about everything, life. So is that when like college golf started to be a thought and or professional golf at some point?
I mean, I always felt that when I was in high school, I was very mature for my age, and I think that also had a lot to do with playing golf. But I think my parents, they knew that golf, like especially female golfers, like it was a really great opportunity to go to college and play golf and have a scholarship available. And I mean, that was always a thought in the back of my mind, is that, oh, you're gonna go play college golf, and it's maybe afterwards, if you feel ready, you can turn pro, or you can not play golf and get a job and be a normal person for the first time in your life, which also is super scary thought of
Yeah.
not having that safety net of golf. But then most people would think like having a regular job is like their safety net, and golf is like all the risk. But no, golf is a safety net, and having a normal job is scary. But I mean, I definitely, going into high school, like I knew that I was going to play college golf, and that was up until I graduated high school, that was my goal, was to play well and go to the college that I wanted to play for. And then once I got there, like that's when I would decide on my next steps. Because I think when you're like 17, 18 years old and you're looking forward to college, you don't really want to think about what happens after college. Like, am I gonna be pro? Like, you just want to enjoy the moment. Like, there's no reason to stress yourself out unnecessarily over thinking about being a pro when that's gonna happen. Like, I mean, for me, I graduated, so, but for some, it happens a lot sooner. But I mean, college golf was definitely something that I was going to do, and thankfully, golf gave me the opportunity to play on scholarship, and you know, just, but then also college was like the first time that you're truly alone, because my freshman year I played for Duke, and that was just like way too far. Like going into college and like talking with coaches as a 17-year-old, junior years, when you really start talking to them, like the first thing on my mind is, oh, I cannot wait to get away from home. What is the farthest place I can go from Southern California? North Carolina. Perfect. It's on the other coast. And like, I mean, at the time and still now, like Duke was such a great program. Like they're such a good school and golf team. It's like no brainer. Went, didn't realize how hard it would be to be away from your parents and like your support system that has been there for you every single day of your life since you started playing golf. And then now it's like I'm in charge of my own schedule. Like I'm in charge of when I wake up, when I go to bed, when I work out, when I practice. And it's really hard, and it was really overwhelming for someone who had mom or dad or brother or someone with me like every step of the way. And I got really homesick, and I got really distracted, and I felt at that moment when I was at my freshman year, I really thought about how unhappy I was being there. And it was like, if I'm this unhappy playing college golf, like, do I want to play professionally? And it wasn't until later that I realized it wasn't because I was unhappy with golf. It was just unhappy with my physical location of being so far from family, which I think is super important. And I've been close with my family and my extended family. Like, family is like a huge thing in our family. So, I mean, and then the transfer came up, and at the same time, my parents wanted me to come back to California, but I also realized that if I'm in California, it would be hard for me to grow, because a lot of those really great programs in California, they're like 20, 30, 40 minutes away from my house. Like, my dad or my mom or anyone could literally just drop in without warning and just be there. And then also at the same time, it's like, I know if I was that close to home, my parents are like, come home on the weekends. And it's just, I also wanted to live an independent life. And so when I was looking at transferring schools, I also didn't want to go somewhere where I felt so pressured with golf. Being in like a top 10 program is great, but sometimes you just have to experience other things other than golf. And I felt like if I went to a school that was essentially on the same level as Duke competitively, I would just run into the same problems and the same stressors. And then my dad suggested Colorado. I was born in Colorado, and we moved to California when I was 6. And a lot of my family still lives in Colorado. So if I was homesick or I just needed someone, it's like an hour and a half away. So that's still a good amount of distance between us. So then I called the coach, and it was great. I called the coach, and I was literally on a plane 48 hours later to go on a visit. And then I met some of the team and the coaching staff. And then I think like 2 days later, I had my scholarship papers. And I was like, done. Let's go to Colorado. And it's like Boulder. Like, Boulder is awesome. If you haven't been to Boulder, go to Boulder. Everyone, PSA, go to Boulder. Because it's so pretty and it's so nice. And I feel like I became a lot more comfortable with kind of being on my own in Boulder, because I didn't have the same stress I did when I was in North Carolina. And I just felt more supported with golf from my coaches, which is great. And so I think that allowed me to just focus on golf in school, and I didn't focus on how to not be stressed or how to fit in 3 hours of sleep in between finishing my assignments and waking up for workouts and stuff like that, So definitely, I think transferring was a good idea for me. And it ended up working out really well. So I have no complaints, no regrets.
No regrets. I'd say so because, a couple of things. First of all, was the coach or your coach there at Colorado? Were they
head coach is Ann Kelly, and then our assistant is Brent Franklin. So
okay, were they surprised to have a phone call come in from you?
They were. That is one of the things that she talked about, because she had seen me play. She had come out to watch me play when I was a junior golfer, but she also didn't think that I would, at that time when I was in high school, that I would be interested in coming to Colorado. So Yeah, she definitely, yeah, she jokes about it. She's like, Esther called, and I was so surprised. So, I mean,
Wait, so did you email her first or something? Or is it literally just like, I'm going to call her up and be like, hey, this is.
well, first I emailed her because I didn't have her phone number.
Okay.
And then she emailed me back, and it was her phone number was there. So then I called her because it's like going back and forth with emails, you know, it's kind of it sucks. So then I called her, and then she's like, okay, I want you to talk to my assistant. So then I called Brent, and then we talked. And then, like, we talked about the things that didn't work when I was in North Carolina and stuff, and how I wanted things to be different. And they're like, cool, let's get you on a visit. Funny thing, though, is that this was summertime, like, maybe like a month before school started. Like, I was very late in the game on transferring first. There were some reasons that I didn't have that much time to talk to coaches. And so I was also like very limited options because by that point, like all the schools have all their scholarship papers signed and they have their incoming players. And then so it was summertime. I was hanging out with my friends. We were messing around and we were just like skateboarding, which one, if you've seen, like not a good idea. Like I should not be on a skateboard, like ever. And I fell and I hit my head and I had like a mild concussion and then I had to fly to Colorado where the altitude is just crazy. We're not at sea level. So it's just, I'm like dizzy, I'm tired, I'm cranky. And I told them this all and they're like, if you feel up for it, like you can come on a visit. If not, we can schedule it and when you feel better. And I was like, whatever. I mean, let's just go. I'm tired. I can just take a nap. So I went. And I mean, I didn't get to meet the whole team because it was summer and a lot of them weren't there. But it's just, it was just like a whole different vibe that I got. Like being in Boulder at Colorado, like it almost felt like I was in California, just with mountains and no beaches. Because the culture didn't feel that different. The culture in North Carolina, it felt different. It was a lot more preppy, I want to say. So,
Yeah, maybe not as laid back or,
no, definitely not.
yeah.
So, yeah, it was
So,
a really quick turnaround.
yeah, I'm glad that it all worked out too because, well, it's interesting to me, like Colorado. So you mentioned that you were born there and your dad talked about it. And, but it's like when I think Colorado, definitely golf is not the first thing that I think of. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, as in the state, not like the school, but the school
Yeah,
as
because you
well.
think of like snowboarding or hiking, mountains, outdoor stuff.
Yeah, all the outdoor stuff that's not on green grass, like
Mhm.
all the other things that you do outside. Like people, so I'm in Indiana. Like all my friends would vacation there, but to snowboard and ski
Yeah.
and do things like that. So, I mean, how was that experience? Like,
You know, like I tell people that I play for Colorado, and they're like, "Oh my God, how can you play for that? Like, it snows during the winter, and like you guys are just shut in." And I think my 3 years there, there was maybe 5 times we couldn't go to practice because of snow. 5 times out of 3 entire years. Because I don't know, people just think that there's so much snow. I mean, there is snow. Like we get crazy, but we'll get like 4 or 5 inches overnight, and then the next day it's like 60 degrees and it all melts. So, I mean, there is snow, but it's not like like the mounds and piles of snow people are thinking about.
right,
Which,
not like the Northeast
no,
or
where the
like,
snow, like it snows and it stays. It's like we have snow,
yeah,
but it melts.
right. I do think we have like at least I speak for myself. I like the Rockies always comes to my mind, and like there's
Mhm.
places that are pretty much always snow, right?
Yeah,
But
because
those the really high altitudes and
yeah,
yeah. So I should know more because there was a Solheim Cup there. Solheim Cup? Or international crown?
U.S. Open.
U.S. Open in Colorado.
Yeah.
Like I know there's great golf courses there, so
Yeah. Surprisingly, like some of the nicest courses I played have been in Colorado. So,
I want to like agree that it's surprising, but the more that I get like deeper into golf and knowing people in golf, and there are great courses everywhere. Like in,
mhm.
but we don't get to
Know
experience
about
it.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know like the names. It's like even 9-hole courses definitely like we don't know about just simply because they're 9 holes. So a lot of people we automatically like will kind of push them to the side, and it's like, oh, that's a really nice golf course. It's only 9 holes, but
hmm
all sorts of things like that.
I actually really enjoy 9-hole courses and par 3 courses. If you have a par 3 course, like you should go, if it's 18, like try to hit every single green,
Mm.
18 for 18 greens. And there's one by my house, it's called Hartwell. And I've been playing there since I started golf. I don't think I've maybe hit 18 greens once in my life there. And I think the longest iron I use now is like a 7-iron. But the greens are just so tiny that just like one little missed shot and you're missing the green. So it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy par 3 courses.
I enjoy par threes also. Like we actually, the city where I live, we have a par 3 course. And it's actually pretty nice, but I always use it like I talk about tournament prep.
I mean, is
my
it?
my one tournament a year that I play in, like our city tournament, like I always use that course because same thing. The longest club I'll use actually is I think 7-iron, maybe a 6 on one hole. Other than that, it's like all wedges and lots of wedges. Anyway, it's a good place to sharpen up, and those are the scoring club. I mean, the important clubs
Yeah,
too.
like your iron play, it's good. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
actually, I keep forgetting about that. My best round ever was at that par 3 course. One day, don't ask me how, I shot 5 under,
wow.
and yeah, so I broke. I shot 49. What the heck? Broke 50,
Nice.
and don't like my swing at that time. It was like I really don't know. I think I had 6 birdies and 1 bogey, and just one of those things that'll. I don't want to say never. I'm not a person that says like never, but probably won't happen again. But
I mean, it could. It just might take a little work to
yeah,
get
yeah,
back there. Yeah.
yeah. You're right. So first of all, I see you just look up you and your college experience. You had a NCAA tying round of scoring record, 61.
Yeah, my
That's
senior
pretty
year.
wild. How was that? Like I know I saw an interview like you said you didn't even really realize it or you didn't know, but like what's it like getting into a zone like that?
I mean, honestly, like, never in my college career did I ever think, oh, I want to break the scoring record. Because
Yeah.
I just, like, I didn't have to shoot, like, 61 or 62. Like, it didn't matter. Like, I just wanted to play well. And if I just played well, then that was fine. But at the time, if we were in New Mexico and we were playing, and for some reason, like, I was not hitting it that well that day. It just, I was probably like 20 feet, 15 feet from the hole. But the longest birdie putt I made that day was like 60 feet. It was insanely long. It was just, I was making everything with my putter. And so then we get to it was a 36-hole day, and that was the first round. And then we get to this one hole, and I completely hit my driver, and I'm in the fairway bunker, and then I chunk it out of the fairway bunker to maybe 60 yards short of the green. And then I'm walking, and my coach walks up and be like, oh, is that your second shot? And I'm like, no, that's my third shot. I chunked it out of the bunker. And they're like, oh, okay, well, like, it's 60 yards. Like, you do well in that range. So I'm like, yeah, not a big deal. And they're like, how are you playing? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'm playing well, but I wasn't counting. And I was like, I'm playing well. I just really want to par this hole because it would be my first bogey of the day. And they're like, okay. And then he just like, with my assistant, he just like walks off and then he's like, do your thing. And then I put it, I think that was like the one really decent iron shot I hit that day because I put it to like 2 feet and I tapped in for par. And then the next hole is a par 3 and I hit an 8 iron. It was an 8 iron to maybe like 12 feet, make that. And then there's 2 more holes left and I par the second to last and I birdied the 18th hole. And so we're getting shuttled in because we have to go turn our scorecards in and eat lunch and then get ready for our second 18 of the day. And as I'm coming in, my teammate, like we do our scorecards on the way in just so it's quicker. And I look at my scorecard and the girl that was doing my scorecard had like messed up really bad and was like Xing out a bunch of holes and like putting 30s and like it looked really not pretty, the scorecard. And so then I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, this looks right. So I sign it and my teammate comes up to me and is like, what'd you shoot? And I go, I shot 61. He's like, shut up. No, what'd you shoot? Like we're trying to get a team total. And I'm like, no, I shot 61. And she like grabs my scorecard. She's like, holy shit, you shot 61. And then my coach comes over and she's like, and he's like, did you par that hole? And I'm like, yeah, I parred it. He's like, oh, good. That was a good par. And I'm like, I shot 61. And they're like, what? And then I guess like word got around really quickly because I went to the bathroom. And then when I walked in to where everyone was eating lunch, everyone's like, you shot 61. And like all my friends from other teams were congratulating me. So that was really cool. And then they said that I had set a record because the previous low round was also a 61, but it was on a par 71 course. So it was 10 under, not 11. And I was like, that's cool. And my coach was like, did you have like any eagles? And I'm like, nope, 11 birdies and 7 pars. And I think I shot 29. No, 7 under, 4 under. Yeah, 29, 32. So that was really cool. And then afterwards, when the tournament ended and one of the pro shop people, the pro, came up to talk to me, and he was just kind of telling me the history of the tournament. And I guess it's one of the longest running college events for men and women. So Tiger and Phil played that when they were in college, and they both shot 62, and that was the course record, was 62 at that course. And they're like, you shot 61. So you technically didn't play from the same tees, but you still beat their course record that they set. So Phil set it first, and then Tiger tied it, and then I beat it, which I thought was super cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I know like it's not from the same tees, but I'm like, you know what? Like, have any guy college golfer like play from our tees and see if he makes 11 birdies. Like, it's still really hard to make 11 birdies no matter where you play from.
Yeah. Like,
so
that is
really
amazing.
cool. And then, I mean, and I didn't even realize like that tournament, I think when I played, it was like in its 30th something year. So
wow.
Really long time.
And then you backed it up too. I mean, with 2 more good rounds.
Yeah, I shot 68, 69. I think I was 18 under for the 3 rounds. So, and I didn't even win by that much. I think I maybe won by like 3 strokes, 3 or 4 strokes. So it was, yeah, a girl on the last day was like, I think she shot like 64, 65. So she was definitely like gunning for it. But
what was your previous best round?
previous to that, I think maybe 66, 67. I think the lowest I'd ever gone in a tournament round was probably 5 under before that.
Wow. 6 shot like.
Yeah.
I remember playing with my friend. We were just playing around together, and he's a professional golfer now. Like, just well, not presently because no one is really, but grinding it out on the mini tours. And I played around with him, and we played like from his tees, so like it's a long course, probably playing like 7,200 yards or 72 to 7,300. Like it was long, and I ended up shooting 77, and I was so happy. And he beat me by 10 shots. He shot 67, and it was his best round actually to like, I believe it was 67 he shot. Best round to like par he'd ever shot to that point. And I was like, I shot 77, was so happy, and I got beat by 10 shots. Like, and then to go another 6 shots lower than that, like for you, that is wild. And like, I don't know if you ever think about it, but I think if you play in a golf scramble, like I play several golf, like charity events and stuff, scrambles locally, and most people don't even reach 61. Like, you know, that's like a common score for a 4-person scramble. So to do that by yourself, it's hard to kind of comprehend like how good that is.
And also, like, I was really stoked about it. And then I think like this is funny because I think like maybe like 2 or 3 months later, Bianca I think she was playing for Gonzaga at the time, tied it. So she hit another 61 like 2-3 months later at another college event. And I was like, well, held on to that one for real long.
Hey, you're still, I mean, you're still part of it though, right?
That is true.
And go ahead.
Oh, it's really cool. Like that's like something you get to hold on to forever, regardless of where golf takes me. I think you can still get to say until someone comes and shoots 60, like you hold the record for low round.
Yeah, to just be able to say that at all, like I had the record, even to say I have it, and then but even to say you had it at one point, like that is pretty special.
Yeah.
So looking at the roster on that team, I mean, 3 of you stand out right away because I know for sure 3 of you are professional golfers now, and I apologize to the other members of your team that I maybe don't know. But so you're a very competitive team. Like, you know, there's Robin and Brittany there. So I know Robin a little bit.
Yeah.
Don't know Brittany too much, but you think that had to be pretty fun / keeping you engaged even when you guys are playing like for spots, like who's going out and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Robin was a freshman my final year, so I didn't get to spend as much time with her as I wanted. But I could tell, like, the very first moment she came in, like, she is super focused on golf. And that is, like, her thing. And I kind of had a feeling that if she came, it was just a stepping stone. Like, I don't think maybe, like, college was necessarily what she wanted, but it was just kind of a transition phase. So I could tell that she wanted to turn pro as soon as she could. And then Brittany actually graduated the same year of high school as I did, but she took a gap year in between high school and college. So she was a year behind school-wise. And she is, oh my God, she's like one of the most dedicated people I know in terms of practice and just routine for golf, like workouts and eating healthy. And I like look at her and I'm like, you make me feel like a piece of shit. Honestly, like that's how like in sync and like just her routine is just insane. And she really tried to get me into that in college, but I'm like, if I can sleep in late, like I'm gonna sleep in late. And she's like, I sleep in too. And I'm like, you sleep until like 8 a.m. if that's like you're sleeping in. So no, thank you. I don't want to sleep into your sleep in time. I want to sleep until like 10:30. But no, Robin, she left after her junior year or like midway through her junior year, went to Q school, got her card, but I don't think she had very good status. I think she was in like the lower range of that top 45. Got a couple starts, but I mean, I look back, and I've always felt this way. I think playing through Symetra in the long run is actually an advantage because you don't just get thrown in to this whole new experience without any idea of what you're doing and what to expect. Because if I was in her position, I feel like nerves definitely would have gotten to me because it's so unfamiliar. Like, you don't know anyone, you don't know the courses you're playing, you're usually traveling by yourself, and then you have the guy and the bag that you met like 2 weeks ago. So it's definitely, I think, an advantage to play through Symetra, which is what I tell people when they ask, do you like when you played Symetra? And I was like, yeah, I had a really good time. I learned a lot about myself and about my game. And I think it made me a better golfer for it. So I think she was a little overwhelmed, but I mean, she pushed through it. She played Q School again and then has full Symetra status. But then in Australia, she played amazing those 2 weeks. So I'm really happy for her. So, and it seems like whatever she's working on, like, she figured it out, and she's kind of getting back into her groove. So like and it's like it's one of your teammates, so you always want to see them excel and like be there with you and play together. And then Brittany I know was going through some swing changes, and that affected how she played the last year. But she, from what I've seen, like, I think she's gotten it down, and I'm really looking forward to how she's going to play this season, because obviously I want her to play well and for all of us to play well and be on the LPGA all together when this is all over. So
Yeah, I just think it's I mean, if you look at other bigger the like golf schools, like the USCs and UCLAs and the Dukes, and like there's a lot of LPGA players, professional players. Like, it's not just LPGA. Like, if you make a decision to turn professional, and it's not easy even to get to Symetra. I would, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know that firsthand. Like, and going through, like, everyone out there is good, really good. So the fact that Colorado, like your school, the University of Colorado?
University of Colorado.
University of Colorado had, like, I don't know necessarily your coaches were like, oh, we're going to have, like, a team loaded with professional golfers. Like, it's just, it's interesting.
Yeah, and, like, my coaches, they thought it was really cool because last year, out of the top 10, two of us were CE grads. So Jenny Coleman and myself. And so they were excited because that's like the first time that's ever happened for Colorado and their program. And I mean, Colorado, like, I know that they're not a top 10 school, but we did pretty well. Like, we were always at regionals. We were always playing, trying to qualify for nationals. And we were probably like a top 23 program, which is not bad. Like, it's still up there. So I think people underestimate our team a lot because of where we are located, and like we don't get like the big names coming out of high school coming to Colorado, which is fine because I don't necessarily think that like you become a different person when you go through college and your game changes a lot. So even if someone wasn't like a top 3 recruit coming out of high school can become better than that just by going through the process and growing through college. So I don't know. I think I'm proud to be a part of that program because it's given me so much, and it's honestly, it probably changed my life. It definitely did change my life and how I view golf and how I wanted to continue play golf when I graduated. So
Yeah, I think that it's it's an important process for most people. Like, most people, there's the exceptions, like the Lydia Ko's and the Brooke Hendersons and the Lexi Thompsons. Like, they're anomalies to it all. Like most people having that experience of college, even if it's not necessarily like the golf part, but just like things you talked about before, the independence and learning to kind of set your own schedule and figuring all that stuff out. And I've seen also a lot of players that, whether it was a coach or just something happened during their time in college, that the game like just flipped and hit a different level. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then you might not have been thinking about professional golf, but then it's like, oh,
Now it's a
like I'm
possibility.
shooting in the 60s a lot. Like I could do this, and yeah.
It
So
definitely is. Yeah.
go ahead.
No, because like I mean, I think almost every golfer that wants to play professionally, like in college, they become better. I mean, the transition that you go through, it's always almost better in the long run. It benefits them. I mean, unless you like really screw up and just like don't care, I think having that college experience will always make you a better golfer in the long run, better person actually, because you grow up really quickly and you learn to handle your responsibilities and stuff. So
Yeah. So I actually want to talk to you about Symetra Tour a little bit, because I think that's an area that not many people are really aware of. Like they know that it's like the stepping stone to get to the LPGA, but as someone who you went through 2 years of Symetra,
yeah, like a year and a half. The
year and
first
a half.
year, I hurt my like an old knee problem came back, and it was just better to come home and
Okay, so about a year and a half of Symetra,
yeah.
and then getting through that, getting into the top 10 to earn your LPGA Tour card for this season. Hopefully, we do get back to this season. But
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about like life on the Symetra Tour? Like what?
I have only played in 3 LPG events, but I can already tell that there is a big difference in how personally I felt comfort wise playing on Symetra versus LPGA. I mean, going through Q school when I graduated college, I was super pumped. I mean, I think the first stage there was like almost 400 girls, 300 something, and 90 spots, 90 in ties made it through. But and then like how I got myself into that mindset is like, when have you ever placed 90th ever, like in your life? Doesn't matter how many people there are, but like when. And then like the same thing applied all through to final stage. And when I got to final stage, I kind of let the nerves get the best of me. But I secured full status for Symetra. And I got up kind of my first year, I got up to a rocky start. I think I missed 4 out of the first 5 cuts. And I was going through this crisis of like, oh my God, like, should I play golf? Like, am I meant to be playing golf? Like, if I'm already like this sucky, like, how much more sucky can I get? Had a really long talk with my parents, and they're just give it a couple more events. And if you're still on the fence, like, we can come back and reevaluate options. I'm like, cool, just go and play some more golf I'm not doing it very well. But then I got to an event in Georgia and I played decent. I think that was my first top 10. I got like 9th place. And after that, it kind of got the ball rolling momentum wise. But I also learned that the girls on Symetra are super nice and super inclusive, especially to the rookies. Like, there were a bunch of girls that like during practice rounds that I met for the first time, and they made the effort to come up and talk to me during the tournament and like ask me how I did. And it's weird, but like you become really good friends and you end up going to dinner, going to the movies. If you miss the cut, you might go to the bars if you're old enough, you know. And it was fun because it like you were competitive, but once you were off the course, that's where it ended, and you just had friends and you had fun. And I think if I was lonely and I didn't have that, it would have definitely been a lot harder. And then I think my last event was Milwaukee. After that, I just was like, I need a break. My knee hurts. I'm like limping when I'm walking down the fairway. Like, I need to go home, get it checked out. Went home, got it checked out, came to the decision that finishing out the season was probably not the best idea if I wanted to get better in time for the next season. So I kind of, it was a hard decision. It was a hard decision because it kind of felt like I was giving up. But at the same time, it's like I'm looking out for what's best for me in the long run. So just stopped playing, talked to Symetra, and we were thinking about getting a medical leave. But then they explained the process to me, and it's that if you take a medical, the tournaments that you already played the next season, you can't play those same events. You just basically start where you ended. And I'm like, oh, I don't want that. I already played like half a season. And at the time, I was, I think, like 30th, 30 something on the money list, and top 80 retained their cards. So I was just really looking at that money list and hoping I didn't fall out of the top 80 because I still wanted full status going into next year. And luckily I didn't. I think I ended up like mid to high 50s. So then got my body ready. And then it's funny because I skipped the first two events in Florida of last year because I had gone to Korea, came back, and there was maybe a week and a half before I had that first event, and I'd been gone for like 3.5 weeks and I didn't feel ready. So I was like, okay, I'll skip the first two and start in California. And I got to California and all the girls are like, you're back. Because honest, I didn't really tell people what was going on when I stopped playing, just a couple of girls. And they were like, we thought you just like up and quit. And just like decided not to play golf anymore. I'm like, oh no, like, and I explained. And they're like, oh, well, we're glad you're back. And so played. And I think the driving, I became such a good driver because of Symetra Tour, because most people drive in between events because we play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday people just use for travel, and like you just have another girl with you and you just drive. Even if it's like 20 hours, you just go. Like you just take turns, don't stop, and go. That's like a really big, I think is going to be a big difference because I heard on LPGA everyone flies. I think there's maybe one or two events you can drive between that are only a few hours. But then I don't know if those events got cut or not for this season. Our schedule's all wacky. But
Right.
you drive, and on those drives, like you actually become really good friends with the girls you travel with because you are stuck, confined in a car with them for hours. And like if you're not good friends, then that's hard. Like you being,
It
you
could be
know,
miserable. Yeah.
yeah,
If it's someone you don't like,
yeah. It's like, please pull over and I will walk the rest. But no, like you drive, and I guess that's a way to save on expenses, and you really get to know the girls you travel with. And like caddies are not a mandatory thing on Symetra. You can carry your own bag, you can use a push cart, you can have a caddy, but you don't need one. So personally, I liked not having a caddy because it's really hard for me to bounce ideas off of another person and like put that trust in them,
mm,
especially if I haven't known them that long. I mean, there are a few friends from back home that play competitively that I wouldn't mind having on my bag because I play with them so often and I trust them and their advice. But also like a complete stranger that you met through the recommendation of someone, it takes a lot to build that trust. So I actually preferred not having a caddy, but if I did, it was more like a you'll carry my bags type of thing, not give me distances or advice or reads. Um, So that is definitely one thing that I will have to get over and adjust to is having a caddy and relying on that caddy for information that I'm used to obtaining on my own. And the one thing though that I realized that is way different between the two tours is the food, like player dining. Like, oh my gosh. Like, no offense to like Symetra, but like LPGA, they know what they're like, if at least so far. But then the first event in Florida at Gamebridge, like even all the other players are like telling me, don't get used to this because it's not this nice every week. Because Florida was like really nice. And I think I got spoiled a little bit. But yeah, so
well, not to
food.
interject,
Right.
but I can attest that because oftentimes I get lucky enough to eat in player dining as well. It's pretty nice. Yeah. I mean, I think they could have different definitions also of like what's nice and what's not. And there's obviously will be differences between stops, but the places that I've been, because like sometimes media dining is its own thing, and that
Mm-hmm.
food's usually like, I mean, good. Like I'm not going to complain because actually, it's a funny story. Like the second event I ever went to, I didn't realize I could have like is the Meyer event. I didn't realize that I had access to eat in player dining. So I
Mm-hmm.
literally thought the only food there for me was like the trail mix and the like granola bars. And
Yeah.
I wasn't complaining because one, I didn't know any better, and two, I was like, well, like what else am I gonna do?
I also heard that Meyer has like a pretty good spread because it's like a supermarket brand. So they like do it. Like I heard all those supermarket sponsors, like they do it pretty nice for the players.
Yeah, and actually, surprisingly, it was 2017. That's the first time I ever tried kimchi.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you're Indiana, so like I don't think there's a huge Korean population
No.
in Indiana.
No.
So,
I have my Sunsing meme, who is Korean. She lives here. Like there's a few Korean people here, but like no, not enough to have like a Korean store or a,
yeah.
or like a legit Korean restaurant. No. So anyway, that's been really fun for me being out on tour and meeting people from a lot of different countries, but especially Korea. Like I have a lot of friends from Korea now, and the
I mean, there are
food.
definitely a lot of Koreans out on tour.
This is true. This this is true.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, yeah. So you said food. Food's a surprising the difference between because the two Symetra events. Let's see. I don't think I was only there for a couple of days at each one. French Lick, I was only there for one day. So did I even have food? I ended up buying food. That's what happened at the end.
Yeah.
At the end, which is it's fine. It is what it is. Um, but yeah. So Symetra. So you on Symetra, 10 top tens last year? Because as I was
Yes,
as
that sounds
in
right.
10 top tens and 21 starts, I think is the
Yeah,
number.
I think so. Yeah.
So so I always do try to like follow along like Symetra. I mean, because Symetra is the next wave of players. They'll be playing out on the LPGA. So
Mhm.
I'm trying to keep tabs. So obviously, like watching you was you stood out because of how consistent you were. You just I don't know. You can talk about that. Maybe explain a little bit, but you never really had too many lows. I felt like you stayed pretty. You might have had a couple. You had a couple missed cuts, but I mean that's golf does happen. And 10 weeks on a road
I think
is
it's a lot.
a
Definitely a
lot.
lot.
I think you missed 3 cuts, which
Yeah,
three 18 for 21.
That's pretty good. I
With
mean,
10
that's like
top
a pretty
10s.
solid percentage.
Okay, look. Any wins? Any wins for you last year?
No, I think
And
I got second out of the 10 top 10s. I think 6 of those are top 5s, but no wins.
so my point is, yeah, I already knew the answer to that. Don't think I'm just like, I knew the answer to that, but the point is to still get into the top 10 of the money list with no wins means you were playing really well. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a pattern for me. Like, I kind of get to a slow start at the beginning of the season. Um, I don't know if it's just rusty or if I'm just not as prepared as I should be, but I've noticed that the first few tournaments of the season, I'm not playing my best golf or where I want to be playing. And same thing happened last year. And we got to, I think, like third or fourth event that I played, which is probably like the 6th event that was on the season. Um, that's when I kind of started to play more. My shots were feeling better. My putting. One thing that I really focused on the off season before last year was putting, because I mean any player will say if I can make 1 or 2 more putts around, like I will be the best golfer ever, and it's true. Like 1 or 2 strokes, that's a big deal, especially putting. And so I really worked on my consistency with my stroke, and especially like 15-foot putts, because that's where I struggled, because the previous year I was hitting good shots. I just was not making the putts that I should have been making, or I was missing more of them than I should have been. So that was kind of, yeah, I almost like kind of neglected my ball striking and chipping to focus on putting. And that really was worth it in the long run, because I noticed it like a couple tournaments and I was putting a lot better. And if you look at my stats from last year, like my ball striking, like my greens in regulation and fairways are not that impressive. Like they're average at best. But if you look at my greens, my putts per greens in regulation, I think I was like second on that stat, or like average putts, I think I was like second or third on that stat. So like it really, I saw a big difference in how I was putting and how much it was helping me. So because like if I missed a green, I was pretty near it, and if my putting was better and I hit a bad chip shot, there was a higher chance I can still go up and down for par, because I was confident in my putting, which really helped, because then that really eliminates a lot of bogeys and a lot of mistakes. And that's what you need to play well. Like you could play terrific golf and still have a lot of bogeys and still shoot over par. And it sucks because you felt like you played really well. And there are days when you are literally hitting the ball like crap and you still shoot like 2 under because you were putting well. And I feel like I had a lot of those days where my ball striking wasn't something that I was impressed with, but my putting was really saving me. My putting definitely saved me a lot last season. And so when I kind of got my ball striking and my putting all working at the same time, that's when I was shooting like those 67, 66s, like consistent, like 60, like 4, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5 under consistently. Yeah, there was like a streak, like a 7-week streak where I was like really hot, and I think I made like 7 straight cuts, and it was like, I don't really remember the details of how the season went, but I know that I was putting well at every event, because there were events where like the first day I would not play well, but then the second and third day I would go like 5 under, 5 under, or 4 under, whatever. And it almost like because I go look back at my stats and my rounds and my scores from previous seasons to see where I'm strong and where I need to work on. And usually the final round is where I make like the biggest jump. Like the final round is where I usually shoot the lowest score of the week. And then the first round is usually like a decent score. So sometimes it could be like 2 under, 2, 3 under. But then the second round is where I struggled a lot. The second round was the round that you saw my most even or over par rounds.
Interesting.
So I noticed that pattern and I was like, I wonder why. Still haven't really figured out why. So like I start off like average, kind of play bad the second round and then play well the third round. But then I want to get rid of the bad. Even if I just play average the second round, like that's okay with me at this point. So like 2 average rounds and then 1 good round. Like I think that's okay. Like that is an acceptable result. So I'm really just like kind of looking back to see what I did differently or how I felt differently on that second round day. And I can't really, I don't know, like I'm still thinking about it and I don't really, like maybe I'm just losing a little bit focus. I mean, it is around before the cut, so maybe there's a little bit pressure if, you know, but I am really, that is my main goal this season is to get that round before the cut to go down stroke wise.
Yeah.
So
That is interesting. I know, like, so you have the start and the finish down pretty well. If you look at, well, because I did watch a lot, like, you know, the stories of him, but like Tiger, for instance, a lot of his wins would be like, he rarely would go really low the first day.
Mm-hmm.
But that third round, even in the last couple of years, like, it's been really good. Like, when he needed to move, he moved. But I think but the second round is interesting too because I think the cut probably I imagine would have some sort of play into it. Except if you're playing pretty good, it's not like the cut's necessarily always on your mind. Like, anyway, that is interesting. And also, I mean, you probably think about it too. Instead of a couple runner-up finishes, if I have, and I don't know if that happened in those events, but like if you can get 2 average rounds, a good round and a really good round, that is going to add up to good weeks. Like,
yeah, that'll be good golf. But I mean, I think, but also at the same time, I feel like the last 2 years on Symetra have been really competitive. If you look at the cuts for a lot of the events, they're under par. I think some of them go to like 3, 4 under for the cuts, which, I mean, that is pretty hard. I mean, I feel like most people, if they shoot 2 under, they'll come off the course pretty happy, unless they're just playing phenomenally and just did something wrong. But a 2 under round on any given day, like I will be happy about that, unless I was putting everything to like 5 feet and missing like 10 5-footers. But then if I shot 2 under, yeah, I would probably be upset at myself. But then to shoot like a 2 under round and then a 2 under round and then be on the cut line, like that sucks. Like it does suck. But I think, so I was definitely in that position a few times during the season where I felt like I played a good solid first round and then I came out and everyone got done playing and I was right on the cut line. Because I knew last year after like the first half of the season, if you did not shoot under par the first round, like you were going to have to play well the second round. And there were some instances where that happened for me where I just completely blew the first round and then the second round guarantee had to be an under par round, like 3, 4 under if you wanted to make the cut, which I did. And yeah, I'm for some reason I'm thinking about the second to last event in Florida, where I want to say was the worst golf I've played all season long. And it was very disappointing that it happened at the second to last event of the season.
Oh, yeah, did you miss the cut that event?
Yeah, but like a lot. Yeah, I think I shot like 76, 77, 76 or 77, and then I shot like 74, 75 the second day. It was bad. It was really bad. And that also happened to be the tournament my boyfriend decided to come surprise me at, and he just saw me play terrible golf. And I felt so bad, and he was like, well, I'm flying out on Monday, but I guess we have the weekend to hang out. Because I was like expecting him to come to the last event because it's like the last event, but I guess his work schedule didn't work out, and because it's funny because he texted me before the first round, and he was like, oh, do you need anything? And I'm like, oh no, just send me good luck. And then he was like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, like, I have food, I have drinks, like, I don't need anything. But like, even if I did, like, what are you gonna do? And then he just like shows up, and then when he showed up on the course, at first I didn't recognize, like, I saw a person, but I was like so in the zone that I just like my eyes like glanced over, and then I didn't recognize, like, it didn't register who he was. And then I'm like, that person looks really familiar. He was like, surprise. And I'm like, well, you just saw me bogey. So that's cool. But I mean, there are definitely, like, even though I had a really consistent season last year and I played a lot of good golf, I think it's natural to kind of look back at the moments where you didn't play so well because you want to figure out why. And I look back at that week and I don't know what happened, but it felt like I had a different swing. Like, how I was hitting the ball was so trash. Like, it honestly felt like I was 12 years old and I was learning to play golf for the first time. Like, I don't know what my arms or my body or my shoulder, like, what anything, it just felt super weird and out of sync. And I never experienced that in my life, where I just felt like on the course, I felt helpless. Like, it's like, I know I'm going to hit this ball, but I don't know where it's going to go, type of thing. And it just, out of nowhere, just happened. Didn't know why. It was super weird. And then my parents and my brother came out to caddy for the final at the tour championship the next week. And I was standing on the range with my brother, and I'm like, I really don't want to hit balls because I know that you're going to yell at me because something feels really off. And it's going to look really bad, and it's going to feel really bad, so I'd rather just not hit balls. And he's like, no, we got to hit balls. We got to figure out what's wrong. And then so I just like stood there, hit like 60 balls. He didn't say a single thing. He just was watching me hit balls. And he's like, why are your arms like so loose? Like, they're not connected to your body. And I'm like, that's exactly how I feel. Like, my arms are like are not connected to my body, and I just feel like my arms are just those little air people that are just like swinging all over the place. Like, I don't get what's wrong. And so he just had me hit like punch shots and half shots for like an hour, and then he's like, okay, well, if it really gets, like, if it feels that bad, like, we're gonna have to hit punch shots all week and not full swing shots, because it seems like full swing shots you're struggling like hard. I'm like, yes, I am struggling very hard with full swing. So I mean, that was definitely an adjustment, but it ended up working out because it was windy. So I didn't feel comfortable even hitting full shots. So it ended up working out, and I played not well the first round, I don't think. Actually, no. What did I shoot that first round? I shot 3 under. Yeah, I went 3 under, 3 under, 2 under, 3 under, which was, I was bummed because I was really hoping I could just go like 3, 3, 3, 3 under the whole week. But at that point, like, I knew that I was pretty locked in on the top 10 unless like 11 and 12 got first and second place. And that was assuming that I missed the cut entirely. So I wasn't too worried. I just wanted to have fun with my brother out there on the bag and my parents with me. But then that was also the week that the girl that was in number 10, mind, she got her pro-am times mixed up and didn't show up for the correct pro-am. And once you miss a pro-am, you get an automatic DQ, withdraw from the event. And she was sitting on number 10. And I remember that being a huge deal because everyone's like, that sucks, that's unfair. But then people were also like, those are the rules. Like, everyone has to abide by them. So, I mean, luckily it ended up working out in her favor. But I remember there was people who were like, okay, this is our shot. Like, number 10, like, she's not playing. So we just have to hit that number. And it's like, there's nothing that she could do to kind of block that. So a lot of people were super focused and just really into it. And then I saw after the first round, it was crazy. Like, the girls from 11 to like 20, like those 10 girls, like 7 of them were like in the top 10 after the first round, scoring wise. And I looked at the scoreboard and I was like, okay, well, I definitely have to make the cut. And I definitely like have to place well. And that I was like kind of like going into the week like, oh, like it's fine, like as long as you make the cut, like everything will be fine. But then after that first round, I was like, crap, like no, like all these girls are like really locked up and just going for it. So then I talked to my parents and my brother, and I'm like, okay, well, everyone's playing really well, so I feel nervous because if someone wins or gets second place, that could potentially bump me down 1 or 2 spots. And bumping down 2 spots, I'd be outside of the top 10. So the nerves actually kind of kicked in that second round. And I shot the same score. Like that day, I didn't feel like I played really well. But I just was consistent. I was like steady. I was hitting fairways and hitting greens and giving myself good opportunities for birdie, and like a couple of them happened to go in. So, and then the third round was not a good day. It was like that day where I felt like my swing was just not working. So, yeah, that day, because I already made the cut, and that day my brother was like talking me down on every hole. And I was very irritated that day because it just was not going the way I wanted it to go. And I was sad. I was like, why am I hitting it like this? And then I shot 2 under. So the score was not bad compared to how I played. So it was one of the lucky days. And then the last round was actually a really good day. I felt like my swing felt good. I was putting well. It felt good. And then I got to 16. I had like a 3-footer for birdie and I missed it. Like it did not even touch the hole. 3 feet. Like those are the putts that we are trained to not miss. But a lot of the times, sometimes like you miss them. Like, and it is like, it's the worst feeling. Missing a 3-footer is the worst feeling in golf. So I hit the putt, did not even touch the hole. I had like a 4-footer coming back. Made that for par. And I got to the 17th tee, and it's a par 3 over the water. I had a 6-iron in hand. The pin was front left. So I'm like, okay, they want people to go in the water. And my brother is like, okay, let's just hit a 6-iron and put it in the center of the green. Even if you have a downhill putt, it's an okay 2-putt. And I'm like, sure. And then on the tee box, I don't know what was going through my mind, but I aligned myself directly in line with the flag stick. And I chunk hooked the crap out of my shot into the water. And my brother was like, from where I was standing, it didn't even look like you were aiming at the middle of the green. And I was like, I wasn't. I don't know why I wasn't, because in my mind I told myself that I should aim at the middle of the green, but my body said, no, let's aim at the pin and chunk hook your shot into the water. And I was like, that happened. And then I doubled that hole. So I was going I think I was like 5 under until 5 under, 4 under. 4 under, and then I doubled that. And then I was 2 under, and I was like, well, like 2 under is not a bad finish. Like, it'll be enough. Like, I know it's going to be enough to keep me in the top 10. And then we get to 18, drivable par 5, but reachable in 2. Hit driver, hit it into the rough, hit hybrid. It's like one of the best hybrids of my life. We see it going, and I think it's going to go in the hole because the pin is just past this ridge. And then my ball stops past the ridge on the downslope. And we get up there, and we're like, how did this ball stop on the downslope? Like, I hit, like, the best shot of the day, and it stops on the downslope. And, like, whatever. It's, like, a 15-footer for eagle. And my brother says, like, if my ball had maybe carried a yard or half a yard more, he thinks it probably could have gone in. It was just, like, a perfect line. And so then 15 feet for eagle, downhill. Don't know what I was thinking. I was just like, my mind just blinked. Hit it super hard, like 5 feet past. And my brother looks at me. It's like, why did you do that? I'm like, honestly, I don't know. Like 17 and 18, I feel like I keep blacking out. Like, I don't know why. I'm like, obviously, I know that top 10, like, I'm locked in. Like, my card is good. I don't, like, that means the pressure should be off and, like, it should be smooth sailing. Like, you feel easy and calm. I don't know what was wrong with me. I was just doing all these things that I normally would not do. Hit it 5 feet past. Everyone's like tapping in for their birdies because it's a reachable par 5, and I'm like, well, I have like a par 5, like a 5-footer for birdie, and it's back down the hill again. And then I hit it, and then I hit it super soft, and it like hangs on the edge, and it goes in like on the edge. I thought it was just gonna stop right there. I'm like, I missed a 3-footer, made a double, and then almost just 3-putted from 15 feet. And then my mom came up and she's like, oh my God, you did it. And I think I ended up getting like 8th. I was 8th place. That was another top 10 that I got that week. And I was not that far off the winning score. Was I? I think I was maybe like 4 strokes off the winning score. Was definitely doable if I had not gotten double. Did not miss my 3-footer for birdie. So it was definitely like I could have been up there, but I wasn't because the last 3 holes I just forgot how to play golf. But I remember feeling like I was excited that I had finally got my card, but I wasn't like over the moon happy because I had been playing so consistent all season. I didn't really feel like any different than I had the previous weeks because it almost felt like you have played really good golf this whole season. Like, this is your reward. But just because I'd been playing so well, it wasn't like an underdog Hail Mary type of story. So like I feel like the excitement kind of got lost. Also, I was really tired. Like a whole season just ended, and like I'm like, oh, finally go home. But I also had my car with me, and so my parents were like, oh, we'll help you drive your car from Florida back to Southern California. And I'm like, oh my God, 3-4 days stuck in a car with my parents. And my brother, of course, decided to fly back instead. I don't think he would have fit anyway. We had so much stuff in my car. But then I was like, oh, we have to fly, like we have to drive back and all this blah, blah, blah. So like I wasn't as excited. And it didn't really hit me until that first event in Florida on the LPGA where I was like, oh my God, I have an LPGA, like I'm playing on a different tour now. But
hey. So I feel like I don't know if this is how you feel or not, but I feel like also there wasn't necessarily like a singular moment that just like a win. Like you didn't have necessarily a moment that like you could latch on to that moment that like catapulted you to your tour card.
Yeah, no,
it was
I
like
think I had like a defining moment.
you just played really well consistently for the majority of the year after you said you started out a little rough, but so maybe it's like a little anticlimactic, but you're on the LPGA Tour now.
Yeah, I
And
am.
so, yeah, well, what was that like? Other than feeling like you were going to hit some people in the head on your
I
backswing?
was definitely nervous. It honestly felt like, I mean, obviously there are more fans. The crowds are bigger out there on the LPGA. And I was definitely nervous. Definitely did not hit a good drive. My first drive of my LPGA career was not good. I think I like toe faded it into the rough, and then I had to punch out. But why did I? And then I missed my birdie putt. It was like a 10-footer. I hit like a wedge to 10 feet, missed it, totally missed it. But I mean, that first hole, I was nervous. And then going into the rest of the round, I did not play well that first round. I think I shot like 3 over, 4 over. I was nervous. I was, I didn't really feel comfortable. I was kind of out of my zone. Because I knew, like, in my mind, I knew that it was just a golf tournament, like another golf tournament, but my body felt differently. Like, it's like your first official start on the LPGA as a member. So it was hard to focus. Like, I was kind of not as focused as I wanted to be. I was not playing like I knew I could be. So it was disappointing. But then at the same time, like going through 2 years of Symetra, you learn that you'll always have your bad rounds and you just have to brush it off. You can't let it fester and just put you in a bad mood, because I think that definitely hurts my game in the long run. So, I mean, after the round, got some food, just let it go, went back, relaxed, try to do better the next day. And I did do better, but not well enough to make the cut. So, but then I wasn't super disappointed that I had missed the cut just because I hadn't played well. So if I had missed the cut by one, I think I would have been sad. But I always tell myself it's better to miss the cut by like 5 or 6 than miss it by 1 or 2, because you don't feel the loss as deep in your heart as when you miss it by one.
Yeah, and I think I think as a golfer, you always, probably most rounds, you think about like, I could have shot 1 or 2 under easily. Like you go back to a putt or a shot you were too aggressive on or
Oh
whatever.
yeah, there's always
But
one shot you could have done better or not.
always.
Always.
But you don't worry, you don't think about it as much if you miss the cut by 5 or 6. If you miss it by one, then you're just like that 3 foot, like that 3-footer you missed. If that would have been,
Yeah, to make the cut,
yeah,
and I missed it. Oh my god, I think I probably would have cried, because I actually, that has happened to me before, where in Michigan I shot even the first round. All I had to do was shoot even. I think the cut was like even or 1 over, and got to 18. All I know is that I had to par the last hole, and I had 80 yards in with my approach. Hit it to like 15 feet past the pin. Had a downhill putt. It was like one of those moments where I hit it like 4 feet past, and my 4-footer lipped out from par, and I missed the cut by one. From 15 feet, I 3-putted to miss the cut by one, which sucks. So
yeah.
that was my moment of the season where I'm like, this really sucks. So there's that.
That's all right. Like,
So I experienced one of those moments last year.
so you got it out of the way.
Yeah.
I mean, in reality, if you're playing golf for like, I don't know how long you want to play, or or how long you will end up playing, but moments like that, like little bits of adversity and disappointment, definitely come up. But it's
Oh, for
nice.
sure.
It's
There's no
nice
way
to
to avoid them.
Yeah, it's nice to know that you can bounce back from it though, because you've done it. I mean, you did it really well after last season.
Yeah.
What's something on the LPGA so far? The 3 events you've gotten to play? Or something that's really kind of surprised you?
Like, I know that those girls are good, but one thing I really did notice that was different between Symetra and LPGA is putting. Like, the girls on the LPGA, I would watch them play, and they're so good at putting. Like, I think that is the one thing that separates the girls on Symetra from the LPGA is putting. Because ball striking between the two tours, pretty similar. But putting and short game, I think is the one thing that LPGA players do better. So that is one thing to work on or work on more. So
And it's something that you worked on a lot going into last season, and you did well this past season on the Symetra. But it is wild because my friend that I told you that he's a professional golfer now. He says it's a putting contest essentially. It's like everyone does get on the same, like there's definitely better ball strikers, better drivers of the ball, they hit it longer, whatever. But at the end of the tournament, like it comes down to who makes the most putts, and some people just do it like amazing, like NB for instance.
she like makes putts from everywhere on the green, and I'm like, how do you do that? Teach me. No, she does. Like I was there. Well, I wasn't there. I stayed in my hotel room when she won in Australia, but I was watching her, and I think the last round she was not hitting the ball well, and she was not chipping it well, and she had like 15 footers, 20 footers, 10 footers to par, and she like drained all of them, and I'm like, how? Why can't I do that?
And the very like essence of a putt, like it is fairly effortless. It's like not a driver, like you're not attacking it, but she makes it look easier than probably anybody else that, like male or female, like just putting.
Because her speed control with putting is amazing. Like even if she misses, the ball is still right next to the hole. So
it really is. Yeah. So that's a funny story. I've started this thing. I don't know if you saw it Sunday. I'm doing one tonight also, but like sharing a story from every tournament that I've gone to.
Yeah.
The last 3 years. So I'm actually kind of struggling for the one tonight but I'm excited for the next one. So it was the Meyer tournament in 2017. And I was asking some questions, I'm new. This is my second event ever, working. So I'm meeting people for the first time. No one knows who I am, and it's like I want to ask NB a couple questions. I was doing an article about major preparation, and anyway, so last hole, she's not really in contention. It's on a Friday, but she makes a 40-footer for birdie to finish. Of course, that's what she does.
Typical.
Typical. And I had asked one of the tour officials at that time that was working at that time, hey, could I ask NB a few questions? And so they helped me ask her, and she was like, oh, why do you want to talk to me? Because I'm not in contention. But she's like, sure, because she's really nice also. Anyway, I talked to her, and I'm very nervous, whoever it was, but especially this NB, she's a legend.
She's iconic when it comes to.
Yeah. So I get up there, I'm okay, recording, use the voice memos to record the interview. Start talking to her, just 2 minutes. And I'm okay, thank you, NB. And I go to press end, and I never pressed record. I wanted to cry, low key, I don't know, cry, but I was very no way, this just happened.
I bet you had that feeling where you, when you realized that your stomach just dropped, and you
Yes. So I went old school. I just found a notepad, and I just started writing down everything I could remember, which maybe some of the more veteran journalists would be oh, no big deal or something. And it wasn't like a long interview, so it's not like I had to. But still, it was like, this is her. She took the time to talk to me. She's like one of the greatest players that's ever played, in like all these things.
You
And like,
didn't even
I
record
didn't
it.
record it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay, so to wrap things up, I just have a couple questions about. They're more like shorter answer questions.
Okay.
Maybe. It could be a little longer, but it's okay either way. So, what were some of your goals, like before anything happened? What were some of your goals heading into this season, the 2020 LPGA Tour season?
My goal was, well, specific goals was I wanted to get my putting average down to below 29. Um, and greens and regulation, I wanted to be around 14 or 15. And then fairways, I wanted to be 12 plus fairways. Those are just my stats goals that I had. And then mentally, I just wanted to work on my stress levels a little bit and just enjoy the moment more than and enjoy being out there because you finally all your hard work paid off and you're finally out there. So definitely enjoy the moment more of being out on tour. And I mean, playing wise, I think if I can reach my goals that I set for myself with my stats, like that should be a pretty good season of golf. Or it should be. I mean, you never know what happens, but like just based on stats, like that should be a good year. My goal was to actually play this season, but I mean, coronavirus kind of had other plans. So it's an adjustment, like having this much time off in between events, especially because I was so geared up, ready to go, and I was prepared during the off season. And then the first tournament rolled around, and I was like, okay, like the season's starting, and I know it's going to be a long one. And then this just all happened sudden. It happened super sudden because we left for Australia. This was on the it was like on the radar, but it was not serious. And then we came back, and all of a sudden we got back, and like a week later, the Asia spring events were canceled. And then the West Coast swing was canceled. So it was a lot to process. So my goals are definitely try to mentally prepare myself more because, like I said, like I've never had this much time off in between actually playing like just a round of golf. So I need to kind of get myself into the right mentality, which I think will be a challenge just because I feel like I've gotten kind of complacent with how things are.
I think that's been tough for a lot of people. I mean, because you don't necessarily. I don't know who it was I was talking to, but I guess I've talked to a few people about it. But usually, when you're preparing for golf wise, you have like a goal. Like there's something in mind that you're preparing for. Like I'm preparing for this tournament. Like going into Boca Rio, the first event of the year, like you had December and the beginning of January to like, I'm preparing for this.
Yeah.
But now, like, you kind of have an idea mid to late July, but at this point, you don't even know if that's 100% for sure. But at least you have like a date you can kind of start to mentally get ready for. But
Yeah. But I would say that based on where I was December and based on where I am now, goal wise, have shifted a little bit. I right now, like I know if I have a couple of weeks, I'll get my swing down. But right now, mentally, I just need to get myself in the right spot again because mentally, that's like it's all over the place because I don't feel like it's tournament season and I need to get myself there. But I
right,
can't do that unless I know that we have a for sure start date, you know?
right.
So it is nice having a date, but then also not nice knowing the uncertainty could move that date.
Yeah, kind of getting because that's difficult too emotionally to deal with, like
Yeah.
highs and lows, highs and lows. Like if you hype yourself up, like this is gonna happen, and then it doesn't happen, and then
Yeah.
you hype
And
yourself up again.
you just get tired of doing that and then it's just it's different because I know that there are girls that have not played since November of last year, like 6 months. And that is terrible, honestly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, different
Yeah,
times.
for sure. What about career-wise? When you, Esther Lee, decide to call it a career, whenever that may be, do you have any goals that you would like to accomplish?
My imminent goal, short-term goal, is I want to retain my card. I think if you look back, the girls that make it through Symetra, maybe like 40-50% of them retain their cards for the next season. But I definitely do want to retain my card. I don't even know how they're going to do that for this year or going into next year just because of the schedule and like how we've been impacted. But whatever it is, I want to retain my card and give myself good priority going into the next season. That's my first goal. Career-wise, I mean, I would love to play for as long as I can, but then there's also being a women's tour versus being a men's tour. Like, as crappy it is to say, like, we do have certain time periods in our life where we have to sacrifice our careers over starting a family or, you know. So, I mean, even through that, I would want to keep playing. So, I want this to be a long career and something that I can look forward to for the next, I don't know, like 15, 20 years. And then I think after that, I think when I hit like 20 years, I could probably like convince myself to get a normal job if I wanted to. But then it's also scary then because like you're like, what? How old will I be in 20 years? I'll be like 45. Like 45, and you're getting a normal like a job for the first time, and people will look at you and be like, "What did you do for the last 30 years of your life?" You know.
Yeah,
So that's it's probably even scarier then, unless you go into something golf related. So yeah.
I get. I mean, that's it's interesting too. So, like, I know Lydia pretty well, and she's been vocal in the past. Like, I'm going to retire at 30, and she said that at like the age 19 or something. And I was like, what? Like in the midst of her dominating women's golf, essentially,
Hmm.
and it was hard to kind of wrap your mind around it, like you already like you're gonna call it a career at 30, but there are lots of other things, like there's other interests, and I wouldn't say, like, as far as, I wouldn't call it crappy thing to say, if they're literally like, if you wanted to start a family, like, yeah, that's going to be a difficult time period. I mean, you kind of have to do what you have to do, like, it's, but having the resources in place, like, to allow that to be possible, I think that's the
Yeah.
big thing. And LPGA has definitely improved, and I think is better than most workplaces as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Like, so interesting. Interesting thing to talk about. Actually, none of my business to talk about either. But
No, but
um,
it's true. Like women and men in sports, like women will always have to go through the time period in their lives where if they want to start a family, like there's certain
yeah,
limitations. Like you don't want to have kids too late because then it's a risk for the mother and child. But then
right.
if you do it too early, like that's like your prime years for your sport, you know? So like there's always
Yeah,
push and pull and sacrifice, something that men don't have to deal with in the same way. I mean, obviously they have partners that they want to start families with, but they don't actually have to carry a baby.
the
From
physical toll
yeah.
and change
Yeah, your
is
body
is
changes so
not this.
much.
It's not the same.
Definitely not.
So that is a very, women professional athletes that are women, like, don't get enough credit for that. Like, what Serena has done, for instance, like, is,
Oh my God, she's amazing. She is like a beast. Like how, yeah, I can't even, yeah, that's
it's hard to
crazy.
fathom. Yeah.
Like what she did was incredible. And she still looks the same. She's like in like, I don't know how many hours she had to put in at the gym after giving birth, but she looks awesome. So good for her.
Yeah. Okay, do you have any superstitions?
I have used the same ball marker since I was a sophomore in college. Don't ever
Wow.
change it. And they have to be round. My ball markers have to be round. Like I cannot have like a not perfectly round shape.
All right.
Also, no, that's it. Is it it? I don't.
You mark your ball a special way, or
Well, I've marked my balls the same way for since I was in high school. I have 3 dots on them. Um, I don't know. Not really superstitions, just more like routine. Like in the mornings before a round, I'll always listen to the same music. Like I have like a playlist that I go through, and then I always like the number of shots I hit with my irons in my warm up is always the same. Um, yeah, that's about it. I don't
it's
know if
good.
those are superstitions more as routine pattern.
I think for me, what would classify into superstition is like, how would you feel if you didn't do it? Like if you didn't have your playlist, or if you didn't hit that number of shots on the range.
I would feel uncomfortable. Like I definitely like when I warm up in the mornings, I definitely have my headphones in and am listening to music. And there have been instances where I have forgotten my headphones or they've been out of batteries because they're
Mm,
wireless. And I don't like it. Like it's not a good feeling.
I would
So
say you're borderline superstitious, and when
yeah,
it comes to that.
yeah, probably.
Okay, what about your most embarrassing moment on the course that you feel comfortable sharing?
Oh my gosh, this is so funny. Last year, was it last year? The year before that, Prasco, in my first year, the 18th hole, the tee box, it's not elevated as in like it's higher than the rest of the hole, but the tee box is just high and you have to like climb up to the tee box. And it had rained. It was like we had a couple fog delays and it was really misty and it was like misting and I was like, oh, whatever. Was it? Yeah, it was Prasco, the 18th hole, par 5, reachable par 5. Anyways, I was walking down and I hear this girl in my group. She's like, watch your step. It's really muddy there. And I'm like, okay, thanks for letting me know. And as soon as I'm done talking, my foot just like, and it's like a 45-degree angle hill. So I just like land on my butt and I slide. And I'm wearing pants because it's kind of chilly. And thank God it's black pants, but my shirt is white. And I just slide. And everyone is just like standing there. And I'm like, can I get a towel, please? And thank God it's like the last hole of the day. But at the same time, I'm just like, that kind of hurt. Like my tailbone like is in a little bit of pain. And I'm really embarrassed. And my face is probably really red. And I just fell down a slope of mud. And now I'm covered in mud.
And now I
So
gotta
that
hit a
happened.
tee shot.
Oh no, this was after my tee shot. Like I had hit
Oh,
my tee
after
shot.
the tee shot.
Yeah, and I was walking off the tee box
Okay.
down the slope. So yeah, that happened.
You were just taking the faster way. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna slide.
And I was like so glad because that was like the last event before we had an off week. And I was like, oh, yes, I can go shower, pack, and get out of here. But then also because I started off the season with my car and my parents helped me drive it out to Arkansas for the next event. I did not, I forgot to put my golf travel case in my car. So if I wanted to take my clubs home, I had to figure out a way to take them home without my travel case. So I took all the heads off of my woods and driver, and then I got a box that was 4 golf clubs. And then I took all my towels and I wrapped everything in the towels and shipped it on the did I ship it on the flight or did I ship it separate? No, I took it on the plane with me. It was like one of my bags, whatever. And then I got to LA and they're like, oh, blah, 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 so and so. We need you to check in with the luggage. Apparently my box like burst on the flight, or like when they put it on the conveyor, like somewhere in between like getting off the plane and like getting to the carousel. And so this guy is like walking out with like my driver head in one hand because they're all disconnected. And he's like, we can't tell if these like broke off or if they were like already in separate pieces before they. And I was like, oh no, they're in separate pieces. And like luckily nothing was broken. Like there was maybe like a couple scratches on the heads, but like that's fine. So that happened.
Dang.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, nothing really embarrassing. Yeah, I think that's like only.
So I am going to share this story at some point, but Jacqueline Lee, do you know her at all?
I do. I know who she is, but I've not met her yet.
So as an amateur, she was playing. She's Canadian and playing in the Canadian Women's Open. Like a really big deal for her. So she like essentially she was playing really well and she was kind of in the zone. She had like the honors for like the first, I don't know how many holes, 8 holes maybe. She had it for a long time, but she was playing with Stacey Lewis and somebody else, maybe Minji Lee. So like 2 really
so, like
good,
a pretty good solid group.
Yeah. And Stacey had birdied a hole and then Jacqueline just like parted or whatever. But she was in the zone, like she had the honors. She just went up and like teed it up and then was lined up and then it hit her like, oh, I just took Stacey's honors, and then she like ran to the ball and just like like, I'm so sorry.
Stacey Lewis is probably like, it's fine.
She did. But it is funny because I'm trying to imagine. It's hard for me to put myself in the same situation, but like,
I mean, you're so young. And,
yeah.
Like you're like playing with like 2 very strong golf figures in women's golf.
Yeah.
And like you feel like you did something wrong. Like I probably would have like freaked out too.
Yeah.
But I would have like played it off cool, be like, oh, I hope you don't mind that I teed up before you. Yeah, that probably.
Oh shoot. Okay, just a couple more questions. What's the favorite, like your 3 favorite courses you've ever played?
Oh, I hate when people ask me this question. Okay, Karsten Creek in Oklahoma, the OSU course. I want to say I really enjoyed the Arkansas course. What was in something Valley? I have to look it up. Just because it was so freaking hard. And I hated it when I played it, but then afterwards I really actually did enjoy playing that course. And then I have to say Sweetgrass in Michigan. It's one of our Michigan courses that we play, where I missed the cut by 1 because I 3-putted. But still, one of my favorite courses to go to. Really great course.
I like it. What about like bucket list course? Something you think about?
I actually don't, because it's like, like when you play golf so much, like the last thing I want to think about is like, where should I go on vacation and play this golf course?
Right.
So I mean, definitely like they are like that, like St. Andrews. Like I would love to play that course someday. Yeah, that's probably like the only course I would want to play before I die.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Like, have you met Christina Kim yet?
I have. I played with practice round with her when I was in Australia.
Oh, okay. So she's someone, for instance, like you could totally get lost. You could just listen to her, and she would tell you like a million golf courses that you need to play, and she
Hmm.
could describe like she is a golf course. Uh, I called her golf course savant. She, she's definitely all about it, which
Yeah.
is everyone is a little different. I don't know if I've ever actually had like specific. Again, I'm not playing tons of courses, so it's not the same thing for me. But as a golf person, though, I don't personally really have. I want or like I really want to make effort to like save a whole month's income or something to go out and take a trip to do it. Like,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
I
yeah,
get that.
yeah. Okay, so final question. What part of tour life are you looking forward to most when you get back from all of this, the hiatus?
Competing against everyone else. I mean, I think that there's like a certain thrill that you can't get anywhere else when you're not competing on the course. I mean, maybe with other sports, but I can't play any of those other sports. But I mean, it's just like you feel at home. Like honestly, being in self quarantine and like all this, it definitely makes me antsy and anxious. I don't like feeling that way. I definitely miss competing because that's just who I've grown up to be. That's what I've done. So that is the one thing I look forward to the most. Also, the one thing I don't look forward to the most is all the flying. Flying sucks. Don't like it. So I'm not looking forward to it, especially how it is now. I don't know how different it's going to be, but I've never enjoyed flying, so I will
So,
be doing.
so for instance, would you take? I know a lot of people like it's not going to happen this year, but the LA and San Francisco tournaments back to back. Would you drive to San Fran?
Mhm. I would. I would do like that 6 hour drive rather than the hour flight. Because if you look at it, like you go to the airport an hour before, like it takes all in total maybe like 3.5 hours spent at the airport as opposed to 6 hour. I would rather just take the extra 2.5 hours and be comfortable than have to get on a plane, get off, get my bags, get my car, drive to the hotel. You know, yeah, I'd rather drive
Yeah.
than fly.
So, final question. What's your favorite part about competing? Like what is it?
It's that moment when you know you've hit a good shot exactly the way you want it to. That is the best part.
I like it.
Oh,
Esther, thank
thank you for
yes,
having me.
great talking
This
to
went
you.
a lot longer than I thought it would be, but it's like cool. It's fun. It was fun.
Thank you for listening to episode 7 of Pitching It with Ben. If you liked what you heard, please like, rate, comment, subscribe, and share. See you on episode 8.